Hey, Mayor, if you want to open the meeting, we're ready.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan. I'd like to call our meeting to order this evening for the Vinton Town Council, Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. Wow, June already. So Susan, if you would, please read our authorization and call roll.
All
please.
right. Roll call of council. Councilmember Lyles,
Here.
Councilmember Stovall,
Here.
Vice Mayor McCarty,
Here.
Mayor Gross.
Here.
We do have a quorum of council, town staff that are present: Pete Peters, Cody Sexton, Susan Johnson, Ann Cantrell, Chief Drummond, Anita McMillan, and Nathan McClung. Also present, Jeremy Carroll, the town attorney, and Debbie Adams with the Vinton Messenger. I would like to confirm that our meeting is being held in accordance with Town Ordinance number 1016 and Section 4-0.01G of Chapter 1289 of the 2020 Acts of the Virginia General Assembly, and everyone present is participating by electronic means. Mayor, the meeting is yours.
Okay, again, thank you, Susan. Next couple of items, most of us are familiar with, our moment of silence that we use here in the town of Vinton, so everyone can pray as they see fit. And as always, I would ask you to keep this country, this community, and this council meeting in your thoughts and prayers. I'll close that, and then we'll ask Council Member Keith Lyles to say the Pledge of Allegiance. So it's somewhat awkward, but if you can stand for those two, we would appreciate it. Stand now, please. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for the opportunity to gather. And we do want to lift our country and our community to you. We just pray that you'll be with us throughout this meeting this evening. For it's in his holy name we pray. Amen. Keith, it's all yours.
Sorry, I was on mute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, folks, for that. And with that, we'll move on to our upcoming announcements. Vice Mayor, you have anything for us this evening?
Oh, yes, we got lots going on. This Wednesday, it was starting tomorrow, and the 23rd and the 30th of June, Lancerlot Sports Complex is having Wednesdays $5 cheap skates are back. So you can come and skate in the cool for $5. So that's for June the 16th, 23rd, and 30th. And then on June the 18th, the town of Vinton offices will be closed for Juneteenth observation. Excuse me. Then on the 19th at the Farmers Market, Under the Bridge Ministries concert and fundraiser will be from 5 to 7 p.m. And then June the 20th, of course, it's Father's Day. So we want to shout out to all the fathers and all of the folks that stepped up to be a father, that takes care of all the little ones, and even when they get older. So we want to thank you, fathers, for being great influences on us. On the 26th of June, there's a mingle at the market from 7 to 10 p.m. It'll be 7 Mile Forward, and the food truck will be Mountain Grill. And of course, we'll have our beverage garden. And on July the 3rd, some exciting news, riding to the market. The first ride would be leaving at 10 a.m. That's from the Vinton Farmers Market going to the city market. So that's something that's going to be very exciting. I've told a few folks about that and they seem to be really excited about that. So thank you, Councilman Lyles, for making that happen for us. July the 4th, we're excited that we will have our fireworks celebration at the Benton War Memorial starting at 6:30, and a patriotic program and prayer, live music to start at 7 p.m., fireworks at 9:30 p.m. There'll be food trucks and kids activities, and I understand that there's even more to come. So it's going to be a very exciting time. We are so blessed that we'll be able to do it this year. And July the 10th, there is another Mingle at the Market. That is from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. It will be $5 shake. The food truck is Solo Tots. And of course, we'll have our beverage garden for that one as well. So that is all that I have. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add to that.
Okay.
Lots going on.
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, could you take that Sabrina sheet? Would you mind doing that and emailing it to all of us? Can you do that?
I'm muted, but yes, I can.
Yeah, if you could do that, then that way we could print it. And because I mean, I saw it last time. I meant to say something last meeting, but yeah, congratulations. I mean, Sabrina, I mean, that's great to have that listed out. Then you just take it, hang it on the calendar and check things off. But yeah, if you could do that for us, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I have to give kudos to Chastity. She keeps me straight with that. Chastity and Pete. Chastity and Pete. I could not do my little section of this meeting without Chastity and Pete. But yeah, lots going on. So exciting times in Benton.
You bet. You bet. That's a good idea, Mike. I like that idea.
I'll just make it a regular thing after our meeting to forward that to you all, everybody.
Yeah, because then you can just take it, you can take it, hang it up and see it. But yeah, thank you. So I'll thank Pete. I guess we should thank Chastity too. Is that what we should do? I mean, you said Chastity. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
All right. Well, there is a lot going on. Thank you folks for getting all that together. Any other announcements? If not, we'll move on to the next item. And thank you for that, Vice Mayor. Good job. Next item is request to postpone or change anything on the agenda. Any requests this evening? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda, which I don't see anything listed for this evening, nor is there anything listed under the awards and presentations. Citizens' comments and petitions. Susan, have you received any requests in your office this week?
No, Mayor, no requests to speak for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Jeremy, we got your section here. I don't see anything listed, but I'm sure it's a good looking tie you got on there, buddy.
It's okay. That's one of my older ones. I didn't break out the new one for you tonight.
I'm looking forward to your bow tie next time. And that brings us to the town manager. Pete, it's all yours, my friend.
Well, thank you, Mayor Gross, members of council. Good to see you all this evening. The first item under our briefing section, I will turn it over to Mr. McClung if he is ready. He has a brief update for you. Nathan?
Yes, sir. Sorry, I was muted. Let me share my screen here. So in 2019, let me share first. Aardvark and the town of Benton worked together to have an adopted mitigation plan. So this plan was obviously adopted in 2019. And the intention of this would be for this plan to be living, not for it to, just be put on a shelf. I mean, it's a hazard mitigation plan that deals with a plethora of hazards that the valley deals with. And then we had a section where the town specifically dealt with certain things and had certain goals and certain project activities set up for that. So obviously in 2020 things, they got bogged down with COVID, but from this point on, localities within the Aardvark's jurisdiction are supposed to review the projects that they included in that plan and just go through them and see what the current status is, if there's a proposed schedule on those or not. So I took Town of Benton's table And I went through, and just because it's not marked blue as we're going through this doesn't mean that you shouldn't draw attention to it. But if I marked it in blue, that means that there's been some recent developments that definitely want to draw your attention to. But as you go through this, you can see that the town is in the progress of doing a lot of these things. We do this on a daily, weekly, or annual basis. But I just wanted to highlight the areas that are marked in blue for this. And if you have any questions about anything outside of those blue shaded areas, definitely bring it to my attention. And if I can't, I think, others on the call and other staff may be able to assist with any questions you may have. So the first thing that the town had goal of was providing an informational brochure and handout for emergency weather events. And so part of our CRS activities this year, we actually developed a brochure, and that was included in the agenda packet. That brochure specifically talks about flooding in terms of what disaster we're focusing on. There's many flooding properties that are impacted by the floodplain in the town, but that brochure is going to be going out this June, and we intend on having that go out annually to every property that, even if an inch of the 100-year floodplain designated by FEMA touches their property, then we intend for that to go out to them. So you can see the brochure in your packet that we developed. The next major goal, or I say goal, but it really it's a project, was to determine the need for generators. And thankfully with CARES Act money, we were able to have that generator installed at the War Memorial Building. And it's my understanding that that building is actually a designated spot for, if all the electricity goes down in town, it's a safe spot for people to come and stay. It's a shelter, a designated shelter place. So as of right now, there's been a generator shot at the Benton War Memorial, and then also all the well lots that serve our wells throughout town that provide water to the town have also been installed as well. So that's actually a major change from last year, because previously, but when this was adopted in 2019, there wasn't a generator at the War Memorial. And as I mentioned before, all the well lots now have generators as well as a backup if the power does go out on a regional or area wide basis. For local codes review, so the zoning ordinance is currently being revised, and it's actually been submitted into legal review and hopes for adoption later this year. One portion of that, of course, deals with disasters, and it's the floodplain ordinance. And if there's any regulations that we need to review and adopt in order to become more in line with FEMA, that's something we would do. Right now, we're up to date with our telecommunications. We're up to date with our floodplain and other things that are kind of relevant to this kind of conversation, and even things that may arise, like for instance, the building code requires that you elevate your utilities or your mechanicals, like an AC handler, above the 1 foot above the floodplain level as well. That's in the building code, but it's not explicitly in our zoning ordinance. But if need be, we can add that to our zoning ordinance in this process. And it says the cost estimate is $100,000. That actually is not the case. Our department was able to do it in-house, so we didn't have to go out to a consultant for revising our zoning ordinance. Participating in the NFIP program, obviously we do, because we go above the standards of the NFIP program and participate in the CRS, or the community rating system. And so actually tonight, with me as I speak presenting this, we will fulfill our requirements of the recertification and remain a Class 8 community. We're one of the few CRS communities in Southwest Virginia. There's a few others. It's Roanoke City, and additionally Roanoke County as well. But if you look at a map of Virginia, they're really, when you go west of Shenandoah, and you're getting to the Blue Ridge region or Southwest Virginia, there's not many CRS communities. So we're one of the few, and we also are Class 8, which means that all of our citizens and businesses get a 10% discount on their flood insurance premiums every year if they choose to use that discount. We're maintaining our maps. Hydraulic studies are being completed, for instance, on the mill that was completed recently. And then also Roanoke City is continuing to do their Glade Creek stream bank restoration project, which will obviously require an H&H study to be completed. We update our inventories every year of flood-prone properties. As I mentioned before, with a brochure, we update those addresses so that the current tenants or property owners get those every year. And additionally, with stormwater, identifying potential SLAF grants, which is a grant program that allows you to participate with the state in a 50-50 cost share to deal with certain stormwater issues, either on private property or public property within the town. And the final thing I want to note and to keep on your radar, because it's slated to go under the Finance Committee's agenda, but you all will definitely hear about it, but it's going to be a useful tool. We've actually are anticipating getting a flood sensor put right below Gus Nix Boulevard Bridge, below the mill, and that will allow us to really closely monitor the flood levels of Glade Creek right below the bridge. Right now, really the only other monitor is if you go below the confluence of Tinker and Glade, which is useful, but it would be even more useful to see Glade Creek isolated its alone further up the stream, especially for Vinton. So we're anticipating getting a flood sensor put into within the town limits on Glade Creek. So that's another thing that we're going to be doing, and we're going to have that installed this summer once it's fully donated from the company we're working with. So pending your questions, that's all I have for tonight. This is just an annual update on disaster or hazard mitigation, disaster prep, and any other things that we can proactively do as a town.
Jeremy, I do have one question, and I may not understood what you said, or actually this may be our realm of expertise. Maybe Jeremy can help. But I understand that our citizens are eligible for a 10% discount on their insurance. Is that something that automatically happens with the insurance companies, or do you think more likely that our citizens would have to request that? Or do you know?
I wish I knew for more like anecdotal evidence, but I would say it's something you do have to request. But it would be if they asked their insurance agent to write that into their policy, the insurance agent would have to do that if they requested it. If the insurance agents in our region are, that's another thing. Beyond sending a brochure, we also send a letter to every single bank, real estate agent, and financial institution in the entire within Vinton's boundaries. So they should be familiar with it. So hopefully they are taking advantage of that discount that really is at their disposal as a Vinton resident. So I don't believe it's automatic, but if they request it, it has to be attributed to their account.
Property owners would be well advised to make the inquiry, make sure they get the discount, certainly.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that.
I agree. I wonder if that would be a valuable piece of information to include on our calendar, just to let our folks know that they are eligible for that.
Yes. Yeah, it would be. I agree, Mr. Mayor. Great point. I mean, yeah, I agree. I think it would be.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, this is Anita. We do have phone calls sometimes from those property owners in the floodplain, and we do inform them. But like Nathan and Jeremy mentioned, the property owner themselves, they have to contact their insurance. But hopefully with the letter that Nathan has mentioned that has been mailed, that the insurance agent in the town limits are aware of it, that they should tell their client that they should be eligible for that 10% discount.
Okay, hopefully. Well, like I said, we just, whatever we can do to get the word out, because that's, we've gone to this effort So it'd be nice for our citizens to be aware of it and be able to take advantage of it. So, all right. Thank you, Nathan.
Good report. That was a good report.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Thanks,
All right,
Nathan.
Nathan and Anita, thank you all for all the work that went into that. And Nathan, nice presentation. The next item under briefings this evening, I will ask our Assistant Town Manager Cody Sexton to present an update on the American Rescue Plan Act, otherwise known as ARPA. Mr. Sexton, the show is yours.
All right, and Susan, if I can share my screen. All right. Can you all see that?
Got it.
All right. Well, as many of y'all may know, as we've discussed, ARPA, or the American Rescue Plan Act, is sort of the big news for local and state governments going on, coming out of the second big federal coronavirus relief. So tonight, we're going to give you a very high-level overview to what we're looking at in terms of the ARPA money, how we can spend it. We're not going to go into too much detail about specific projects, mostly because we're still sort of internally discussing those and trying to find out what pots of money they can go in. But if you have any questions, just feel free to stop me throughout and we can address those. So first, the American Rescue Plan Act, adopted in March of 2021. This is the breakdown of everything that went into it. But the big thing to look at is that state and local aid, direct aid to state and local governments, is $350 billion. And when you break that down, it comes out to approximately $8.4 million coming to the town of Benton across two pots of money. So this is a significant opportunity for direct investment with money from the federal government to really radically change mostly some of the infrastructure of what we're seeing coming from this bill. So high level, as I mentioned, it's 8.4 million. We just got that estimate, I think last week before last, so it's very hot off the presses. We'll receive it in 2 installments, as you'll see there. The first installment is estimated to come sometime before June 28th. So Anne and her office have already submitted the required documentation to the state. We've been notified that that documentation has been received. So now we're essentially just waiting for the money to hit our bank accounts at this point. First tranche of about $4.2 million should be coming any day now. When you look at the expenditures that will be eligible and that we'll go into in more detail later on, we look at that look back period from March 3rd, 2021, all the way to December 31st, 2024. And so the big thing to note here is, unlike CARES Act money that came last year, we have a much longer window of opportunity to spend this money. So we're not really in a hurry at this point, but we are actively seeking out our options because we want to be prepared for when that money hits and we can start spending it. So lots of still opportunities to set a good framework for moving forward into the future. The biggest takeaway from the ARPA money, or as it says, the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, is this piece about wanting to rebuild a stronger and more equitable economy. So they want us, as you will see in the coming slides, to spend this money on direct services to either our citizens, our employees, or infrastructure in the community. It's not, you can't just put it in your bank account and sit on it and earn interest. They want us to spend this money for the community. And so you'll see, we'll go into more detail these next areas coming up for how we can spend this money. So first and foremost, it's to support public health expenditures. So we did a lot of this, as you'll know, upgrading HVAC systems, upgrading the building and other physical plants here in the town. We did a lot of this with the CARES Act money because the town was ready to go last year on it. So we don't expect a huge amount of the ARPA money being spent in this area. But of course, first and foremost, because of the impact of the pandemic, these public health expenditures are available for us to spend money should, heaven forbid, something else pop up during this time. Second, in referencing the CARES Act, and any specific questions on here, Anne may be able to better answer because she sits in a lot of the meetings, but there's a general sense from the finance officers associations that if an expense was eligible last year under the CARES Act, then it will continue to be eligible under ARPA money. So we're still piecing through what that could mean for us. But generally, if we could have spent it last year on CARES Act, we can spend it in the next 3 years, 3 to 4 years with the ARPA money. We're looking at opportunities to how to address the negative impacts caused by this. So if we wanted to provide any kind of grant programs for businesses in the town to provide small business support, or look at ways to, like I said, support workers and families, both our own or others in the community, there are lots of opportunities to do that. Also, one of the biggest ways we can do that for our own employees is through that premium pay. So a lot of the rules are still being set for how the premium pay can work and who we can provide it to and up to what limits. Pretty much what we're looking at is it's guaranteed that we'll be able to offer it to public safety employees, and we're looking at other frontline workers such as public works employees as well in sort of the first iteration of this. We would like to look at other opportunities. Like I said, it's still the interim final rule, so we're looking at ways of how this is changing, but we are getting some initial guidance that there's a heavy encouragement to spend this money, or at least part of this money, on this premium pay and prioritizing, as it says, lower income workers. This is the biggest one for us, investing in the water sewer infrastructure. We've begun identifying, I would dare say, Pete can keep me honest, but it's multiple millions of dollars of projects, of possibilities in water and sewer projects in the town. It's not highly visible. It's not going to be a new building, or it's not going to be something flashy. I think, as I told the mayor, that you maybe could cut a ribbon for, but it would be a transformational investment in the town's water and sewer infrastructure. The level of investment that we wouldn't have been able to do for probably at least another decade or beyond without this influx of money coming in. And then, of course, the most interesting piece of the ARPA money is this replacement of lost revenue. So the federal government has given us a formula that we can use, and Anne has been working on that for what revenues can count, what revenues won't. But we're estimating currently that over the course of the 4 years, we can claim around $2 million of the total. So about a quarter of the money for revenue replacement. And the way that I describe this is these would be spending money on projects or allocating money for projects that wouldn't otherwise be eligible for ARPA money. So as I explained to Debbie Adams in an email earlier this week, if first and foremost, you'd rather have cash to pay your bills, right? To pay your car payment. But if somebody hands you a $100 gift card to Kroger and you were going to go to Kroger anyway, then you use what you were going to spend at Kroger on the gift card, and then you have $100 left over in your other hand to spend on the projects you want. So while ARPA money directly couldn't be used, for example, to replace signals at a quicker pace or to pave roads, we could book those projects to this revenue replacement as long as we don't exceed the threshold given to us by the federal government. real quick, these are the ineligible uses. As I mentioned earlier, they want us to use the money on direct government services. So these two ineligible uses both count as sort of paying down future liabilities for the town. We can't just stick it in our savings account, and we can't pay debt or pension costs on it. They want us to push this money out into projects into the world. So where do we go from here? We are still actively receiving guidance on all of the ARPA money and regulations coming from the state and federal government. I know Ann sits in on meetings regularly, Pete and I do as well, and we meet often to sort of see what's coming down. Most of it has been firmed up at this point, but we're still open to surprises. The biggest sort of black box of this whole conversation is the General Assembly and the governor. They're planning to meet later in the summer, and they could come up with programs for how they spend the state allocated money. So lots of localities are taking a small wait and see approach to see if the state offers money for example, road paving, then we won't want to use any of our money on road paving. We want to use the state's money on road paving. So there are lots of balls in the air that we're trying to juggle to determine what projects may best line up for this. So as we move forward, we're continuing to get those updates. We're finalizing what revenue replacement may look like. And then later in the summer, as things get clearer, especially moving towards the General Assembly meeting, we're going to start engaging you all again in various meetings and any other stakeholders, especially town staff and other interested parties, into what projects may rise to the top of the list for this money. So I apologize if that was sort of quick or drinking from the fire hose, but I'm happy to answer any questions for you. And like I said, just really supposed to be a high level overview of everything we're looking at. But $8.4 million, like I said, it's going to be a transformational investment in the town of Benton.
You bet. Thank you, Cody. Good information. And I tell you what, he mentioned it earlier, but if we spend that kind of money on utilities and put it in the ground, we'll find some way to cut a ribbon, I think. That's for sure. Any comments or questions, council? Nope.
Just first off, great presentation, Cody. Let me ask you about that 4.2 million that's coming. Is there strings attached to that, or do we get to spend that how we want to spend it?
So that is the first pot of, that's sort of the first tranche of money, the first deposit. And so all of the strings, all of the standard strings mentioned are attached to that money. So
Well, we get to spend it. Well, we get to spend it under those strings that are attached. We get to spend it how we under those categories.
Correct. And we could start spending it immediately under those categories.
Cool. Good.
Hold on. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, just well, yeah. You know, as we all know, I mean, the water infrastructure in the town, and in reading a lot of the information. Thank you once again, Cody, for a great presentation, and Pete, and all the information you've given us. But yeah, I mean, that's but the fact of just figuring out, because I mean, you were talking about the state, but that clarified it. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, Mike, to your point, one of the things that we are actually trying to be cautious about, not only not wanting, it's this game. We don't want to jump out too fast and miss any opportunities that may come from the state, or even we're keeping an eye on this federal infrastructure bill, whatever it may look like as well. But we also know that there are 95 other counties and 100 other towns in the state who are all getting this money, and will start jumping at the bit and hiring up contractors and engineering firms fairly quickly as well. So we're trying to find that sweet spot that we don't wait too long and miss our opportunity and all the contractors are taking up, but we don't jump too fast and miss out on other money.
Gotcha.
Well, I truly believe, as one council member, that water infrastructure is a huge component
Mhm.
of this money.
You bet.
And, I think as we've done well, but I think a planning process for a water infrastructure will definitely, in the long range, benefit the town of Benton.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, you are right on it. I mean, we could spend every dime of this money on water and sewer infrastructure and not bat an eye.
Yeah.
And that may very well not be a bad thing. Seriously.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Cody, would you mind saying that again for the purpose of Councilmember Lyles, that I was right on it? Would you mind saying that one more time, please?
Yes, Mr. Lyles, for your benefit, what I also said is that we could hasten signal replacements throughout the town as well, and cut any ribbon we want to on those. But yes, Mr. Stovall was paying attention, and he was right on the mark when it came to this.
First time for everything.
Oh, man.
That was a good presentation. A lot of
Yeah.
evaluation, and hey, we made it through last year above budget, where a lot of communities didn't, and this is just an even better circumstance for us to be in after last year. So it just keeps on getting better for the town of Benton. Love it.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, amen. Amen to that. Yes.
Yep. You bet. You bet. All right. Good job. Good job. Nice presentation.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks to Cody and Ann both for all the work behind the scenes to put this together. I've been in a lot of discussions. Looking forward to bringing some recommendations to council and getting your feedback on some of these projects in the next couple of weeks and into months. So a great opportunity for the town. Again, thank you, Cody and Ann. Mr. Mayor, we'll proceed on to items requiring action. We have a number of items this evening. Several of the first ones actually are to be handled by our Treasurer and Finance Director, Miss Ann Cantrell. So rather than read all of these introductions, I'll allow her to kind of brief you on each as she requests your approval. Miss Cantrell.
Sure, thank you. Good evening, Council and Mayor. So tonight, it's very exciting. We have before you consideration of adoption of an ordinance which would approve the town of Benton, Virginia fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. And I'm going to share my screen here for this ordinance. So this year's budget represents a balanced budget. It does have an optimistic outlook despite some of the lingering COVID-19 questions on our locality. The purpose of the annual budget is to plan for necessary capital and operating expenditures with current year revenues and implement the plans and visions of the town council. We're very excited to say there are no service reductions in this budget plan, but instead the town was able to reinstate many of the prior year programs, such as the Capital Improvement Program, the Virginia Tech Compensation Plan, and an increase to road paving funding. The fiscal year 21-22 proposed budget for all funds totals $14,179,981. This is a 21% increase from fiscal year 21. Allocation by fund is shown above. So let me scroll up here for you. And so it's here on the chart below. The notice of public hearing was advertised as required in the Benton Messenger on May 20th and May 27th. And then the public hearing was held on June 1st, 2021. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on the fiscal year 22 budget and respectfully request council to consider the adoption of the ordinance here shown on the screen. Thank you.
Okay, Ann, thank you very much. And I know you guys may get tired of hearing me say this, but just for anyone that might be watching and have not heard the discussions before, this is certainly not the first time council has discussed the budget. We've seen this many, many times and looked at it in detail. As a matter of fact, the budget process goes on just about year round now, particularly if you're on the finance committee there, if you're in that situation. So I did want to mention that. And with that, council, are there any questions, comments? If not,
I'd like-
oh,
I'd like to just make a motion to adopt the ordinance as a presented.
Second.
thank you. I think we have a motion by Vice Mayor McCarty and a second. Mike, I think I heard you make the second on that.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
So Susan, if you would call the roll, please.
Councilmember Laws,
Yes.
Councilmember Stovall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes. Thank you. Ordinance passes. Back to you, Ann.
Thank you. So the next item we have is a resolution to transfer funds in the general fund, grant fund, and stormwater fund. I'm going to share my screen here. We do have a slight change to the resolution. So this is the revised resolution we would like to ask for you to consider tonight. During the year, certain expenditure accounts are overspent or are being forecast to be overspent. This is something that typically happens from the unexpected. We also have the reverse. We have some accounts with favorable balances that we're able to move budget funding to the ones that are overspent. These transfer monies exist within the budget, are taken first, and then we had to do a small tweak this year because to account for a debt refinancing entry and a couple of grant appropriations, revenue appropriation was used at an amount not to exceed 1% of the total adopted budget. So these transfers are something our auditor recommends to clean up any variances prior to the review of the audit. Just one thing to note that when department accounts are overspent at the time of audit, it can result in a management comment. So although we can't foresee everything, it would be nice to have a glass ball and know. We just forecast out as best as we can. We try to leave ourselves room for as much activity as possible to avoid any audit comment. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. I will quickly show you the forecast this year. The general fund is listed here on the first page. So our appropriations were $149,000 here in the general fund. These are the accounts that we need to move budget funding to based on our forecast. These are accounts that we had capacity to move from. And then if I scroll down here on our grant fund, we have appropriations of $42,000. So we need to move money to these from these. And then in the stormwater fund here, we're moving from no appropriation, just from expense to expense. So from these expense accounts to this expense account. So this is the resolution we have before you for your consideration, and I'm glad to answer any questions you have on the transfers.
Okay. Thank you, Ann. Council, any comments or questions for Ann? If not, we'll consider a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt it.
Okay. We have a
I'll
motion-
second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lyles, second by Vice Mayor McCarty. Susan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lyles,
Yes.
Councilmember Stovall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes.
Thank you. So as Mayor mentioned earlier, we have two items that typically would be consent agenda items that would go to our finance committee and then would come to council. But we weren't able to hold our finance committee meeting, so we did want to bring these to you as action items tonight. And I will share the screen. So on September 27th of 2020, unit 1146 was damaged after hitting an object. The proper insurance filing was made and the revenue has been received. And so for this item here, council's asked to appropriate the funding from the revenue account from the insurance proceeds to the maintenance and repair of equipment account for the vehicle. And I
Mr.
can
Mayor.
answer questions, or hopefully Captain or Chief Drummond could help me out too.
Great. Okay. Council, any questions or comments? No. Mike, were you
Mr.
going to
Mayor,
make the motion?
I'll so move the resolution.
Okay. All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Stovall. I think that second was Councilmember Lyles. Susan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lyles,
Yes.
Councilmember Stovall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes, thank you, folks.
Okay, last item of tonight, we have another resolution for your approval. A check for $364.20 has been received from D.H. Griffin Wrecking Company. And this is something that is very typical for the department. They use revenue from scrap metal to make minor maintenance repair to their building. And they would like to ask council to consider adoption of a resolution that would appropriate the revenue they receive for the scrap metal down to the building account for maintenance and repair. Happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Okay, council, any questions, comments?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay, we have a motion by Vice Mayor and a second by.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, I think the second was by Councilmember Lyles. Susan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lyles,
Yes.
Councilmember Stovall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes. All right. Thank you, folks. Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank
indeed. Thank you, Ann. Have a couple items for council's consideration, a couple additional items. The first, we previously briefed you on June 1st, and this is an agreement for professional legal services with the Roanoke County Commonwealth's Attorney, Mr. Brian Holohan. This agreement with Mr. Holohan is to represent the town in the prosecution of criminal cases, traffic infractions, misdemeanors, and other juvenile and domestic relations court activities. So this is a 2-year contract. We did speak with Mr. Holohan back in February of this year, and he agreed to the terms of this agreement. This does provide a minor compensation for several of the assistant Commonwealth attorneys that work for Mr. Holohan. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, but this is a pretty standard contract that we've maintained with the Commonwealth attorneys in the past and likely to move forward.
Okay. Council, any comments or questions?
No, Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Okay. All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Lyles for adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
I think that was Councilmember Stovall. So Susan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lyles,
Yes.
Councilmember Stovall, Councilmember Stovall, there you go.
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes, resolution passed.
Thank you, sir. The next item I have before you this evening is a resolution to enter into an agreement with the Department of Housing and Community Development for the Industrial Revitalization Fund grant that was awarded to the town in the amount of $468,750. As the name implies, these funds are intended to rehabilitate former industrial properties that have fallen into disrepair, no longer in active use. The town did apply for these funds in summer of 2020 with the intended purpose of utilizing these funds to assist with the redevelopment and rehabilitation of Gish's Mill. Being that this property is going to be in ownership and held privately and not publicly, it is our responsibility to offer these funds to the developer in the form of a loan. And I'll talk a little bit more about that at the next item when we conclude this. But so again, this is a loan that we distribute to the developer. He uses it to redevelop and rehabilitate Gish's Mill. The loan is then paid back to the town, and then we retain those funds moving forward. Then we can reinvest in future economic development projects within the central business district. So again, this is part of our incentive package for Gish's Mill, but it does get repaid back to the town. and then we can reinvest that in projects down the road. So this is a really great thing for the town. It helps the project get completed, but it also helps us countless times down the road for future projects. I do also want to thank Nathan McClung and Anita for the application itself. Nathan did the bulk of the work on the application. He did a wonderful job, obviously, to get the grant. He crafted that language wonderfully. And I also wanted to mention the support from Department of Housing Community Development, DHCD. This is the fifth grant in about the last 6 years that DHCD has awarded the town, totaling just short of $1.5 million. So they have extended us wonderful financial support and really helped us instigate a lot of the successes that we are experiencing and some of the physical improvements you've seen in the town. For example, the $750,000 CDBG downtown revitalization grant, that was leveraged with the library development and allowed us to do street lamps, underground utilities, the farmers market renovation, our downtown furniture and fixtures. So that was a great thing to kind of take that next step with our downtown revitalization. They also awarded us a $35,000 housing planning grant for rehab in our downtown housing. We have not yet been successful on getting the actual implementation funds, but we have developed a really nice package and inventory of our needs in our downtown, and we will continue to apply for those implementation funds in the future. But that planning grant was very helpful in hiring our consultant to develop that program of work for us. They also awarded the town $200,000 for the VITA grant program that we're still partnering with the Advancement Foundation to distribute. And just to remind you, the VITA grant is a savings account where they attend financial classes and we match dollars that they save towards starting a business or home ownership. And then again, this IRF grant. So I just wanted to mention that this is not really the point of the resolution, but it is worthy to note the support that they have provided us. So, we have talked about Gish's Mill almost every council meeting for the last year and a half, rightfully so. It's a very exciting project. But this DHCD grant, this IRF loan was as important as any of these other steps that we've taken to make this project work. It is a $3 million project. About a third of this project is funded with grants to complement the private funding and then the town incentives and the county participation. So without these grant sources and this loan, this project would not be feasible. So, but I don't have anything else on that matter. I'd be happy to answer any questions as you wish and would respectfully request that you authorize this agreement with DHCD. Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Yes, this is another one of those items that if you just tuned in tonight, you might say, well, that's a big item that went through quickly. But as Pete mentioned, we've talked about this at a lot of council meetings, a lot of work sessions, and actually it's been around for years. A lot of hard work has gone into this, and I certainly want to thank everyone that has worked on it. So I'm very excited about this project. It'll be great for the town, I think. And I too would like to give DHCD a shout out, I guess you would say. They've really they've been good to the town of Vinton, and actually I think the citizens of Vinton and actually the entire state should be happy with the way they operate. They've done a lot of good. They distribute the funds throughout a lot of communities. We don't always get the grant, as Pete mentioned, but they've done a great job, and I appreciate the work that those folks do. It's sometimes one of those things that is kind of behind the scenes, but it's very, very important. So, yeah. Council, any comments or questions about this resolution?
I just have a comment, Mayor, that he mentioned all the money that we've gotten from the DHCD, and they are. It's wonderful that they support the town like they do. However, They don't just give it out. You have to, like you said, work really hard. And if it wasn't for our staff that we have in our town,
Right.
nothing would be possible to begin with. So yes, they give out money, but you have to work really hard for it. And we've got the perfect staff that does that for us. And none of this would be us. So good job, everybody that worked on all this over the last, Pete, I think you jumped in or you came to town right when the side grants and the 750, I think you actually got that dumped in your lap. First started, and you've been working hard on all this ever since. So hats off to you and everybody in town staff.
Yeah.
We just got to find something.
Yeah, Mr. Stovall.
Mr. Mayor, I was going to say something, but actually, my Councilmember Lyles said it all. I mean, naturally, that categorizes exactly what they've done for the town, and yeah. So yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And he's exactly right. That was well said, Keith. A lot of hard work has gone into this from a really great staff. So yeah. If there are,
I'll make a motion about that resolution.
okay. We have a motion by Councilman Lyles. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Stovall. Susan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lyles,
Yes.
Councilmember Stovall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes. Resolution passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you all so much. The last item for action this evening is a resolution for the actual loan agreement itself with Gishmill Davi LLC. This is in the amount of $468,750. And again, this is for the redevelopment and rehabilitation of the Gishmill project. All the financing will be provided by reimbursement for the eligible expenses, and all the finances will run through the EDA. So there is an agreement here to partner with the Roanoke County Economic Development Authority to manage and process the loan payments, both for the reimbursement, but as well as the payments coming back to the town. As I mentioned previously, all proceeds from this loan, as they're repaid, will be paid back to the town, and we can reuse those in other projects. The agreement is actually for a 30-year term for this loan. DHED is very flexible in how we draft and create the terms of the loan in the sense of the payback. This is a very large project. It does have a considerable amount of private financing involved. And so we have structured, and DHED authorized us to structure this loan that it has a actual 20-year deferment on the front, so that the principal and interest is essentially suspended for the first 20 years of the project, so that the developers can pay back their private financing initially. And then as that debt is paid off, then they can pay back the loan to the town. This could be accelerated depending on how well the project does. Certainly, if it was to be sold, there is an assignable clause, but we could ask them to pay that back through the proceeds of the sale. So there are a lot of protections for the town, obviously for a property of this historic significance to us. Some of the associated documents that I'll mention in a moment kind of discuss that, what the eligible uses of the funds are, how long they have to retain the property in its intended use of the mill, and what the application and the funding was granted to them for. So again, a 30-year term, and it is a 2.5% interest rate. So very favorable terms for the developer. But we, again, will receive those proceeds at the end of the loan period. As I did mention, there are a number of associated documents. Thank you, Jeremy. Worked extremely hard on a lot of contracts for this project. But there are a number of associated documents to include the promissory note, loan guarantee, the grantor affidavit, a deed of trust, which puts a restriction on the property, basically a lien, because of it is a loan, and we expect to get compensated back for that, as well as a development restriction and that is some design guidelines that they have to maintain as a part of the DHCD, but also in the form of a loan. So a lot of protections, and there's you know, a lot of legal documents associated with this loan. So again, thank you, Jeremy, for your review and assistance in that. But unless you have any other questions, again, this is a very necessary piece to make the Gishmill finances work. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Pete. We appreciate that. And yes, thank you, Jeremy. We know you've been heavily involved in this, a lot of work going on, so we appreciate all the hard work there. So, Council, you heard it. You heard the details of the resolution. Any questions or comments? Nope.
I make
If
a
not,
motion to adopt the resolution.
okay, we have a motion by Vice Mayor McCarty. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Lyles. Susan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Lyles,
Yes.
Councilmember Stovall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes. Resolution passes. Thank you, folks.
Well, thank you all, council. And I believe that may be the last contractual obligation that we have for the Gishmill project. So it's been a long road, but I'm excited to say we've got all the pieces together. It's been very complicated, but thanks to a great team, a great development group with David Hill and David Trinkle. Really exciting to start to see the work on site take place now. But thank you all for your support and patience as we kind of navigated through this complicated chain of events.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Well,
yes, sir.
you know, I was sitting in my office the other day and I was actually reading everything. And I want to go back to the naysayers. I want to go back to the people that said, when y'all bought Gishmill, I wasn't involved in town council. But, I get it. Naturally, that's vision and everything. But we go back to right now to see where this is coming to and what's going to happen. And thank you very much. Thank you very much for everybody that has stepped up. Thank you for Mayor Gross. I mean, you were involved in that process of buying that property. So you know what? I mean, we can't say anything but thank you. Thank you to what it's doing to the town of Benton.
Well, thank you, Mike, for those comments. There were a lot of us involved, a lot of people involved in the decision. Sabrina, I think you were on council then, weren't you? Yeah. And
Yep.
yeah.
I am very eager for this to take place and see the completed project in the end. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. And we received encouragement from a lot of people who wanted to see it, as Sabrina mentioned, developed and be an important part of town, important part of our gateway, our entrance. Certainly the folks from Historical Society were quite interested in the project. And so a lot of people contributed along the way. And my goodness, the staff has really stepped up to bat. So thank you, Mike, for pointing that out. And I kind of understand, in all honesty, if someone was just looking at that property several years ago as a real estate investment or something like that, maybe their way of looking at the value of that property may not line up with the significance it had in value for the town of Benton. But it's going to be good. It's going to be great for the town. And so I think we've really been blessed to see this project come along. I'm just really excited to see it unfold. I think we can all enjoy it, the entire town. So
I am too, Mayor. And, we're talking about when we're buying this, and if I recall correctly, one of the major influences was a man by the name of Doug Forbes.
yes,
Who
yes,
came before council and pointed to the town seal and said we'd better buy this or get a
Yeah.
new town seal. I think it would be great if we could get, once this is all said and done, somehow get him and Madeline back into town for the ribbon cutting.
That'd be awesome.
Mhm.
That would be great.
That would be
So,
great.
so I never knew that history. So what, tell me that history again. I did not know that.
Yeah,
Well-
Doug came to council and pointed at the seal, and there's the mill, and said that's history right there. If the town,
Wow.
don't do that, then we need to change the seal.
Wow.
Yeah,
No kidding, did he really? Wow. Well, I never knew that. Thank you, Councilman Lyles. I never knew that. I mean, that's wow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's really significant. I'm glad you brought that up, Keith. As a matter of fact, at that council meeting, we heard a presentation from a gentleman that which supposedly was an expert on those kinds of properties, and quite frankly, he did not really support the idea too much, but. The folks from the historical society, led, as Keith said, by Doug, got up and really made an impactful presentation and really pointed out that that's our history and it should be preserved. And he was right. He was right about that. And that's what I meant. You know, the town, that property has much more value to the town than it would the average real estate investor. So it's a very valuable property to us. And now it seems it's going to prove to be a valuable economic development project too. So it's really exciting. Yeah. But thank you, Keith, for reminding me of that. It's good.
Sure.
Yeah. Thanks.
Miss old Doug. I miss
Hey,
seeing.
what?
I said I
Yes.
miss Doug around town.
Yeah, I sure do too. A great man, great family.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I just
Okay.
have a couple of comments and updates on a few projects, if you don't mind.
Sure.
As always, I just want to thank the team, surrounded by great folks at all directions, and I can't thank them enough for all their work. We've accomplished and will accomplish a lot more, but we've accomplished a lot the last several months, and even this council meeting, for example. And I just appreciate all their work. It's really great to have strong coworkers. So thank you all. Look forward to seeing everyone in person July 6th. Our next council meeting will be indeed returning back to council chambers. Looking forward to get back into that remodeled space. I think all of you have seen it at this point, but it'll look and function a little bit different than it has in the past, but looking forward to getting that back and at a new time. So we'll start 6 p.m. Meetings on July 6th in person. I wanted to mention the Vinton chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution. We are partnering with them. They are participating in a Trex recycling program where you take recyclable plastics, primarily grocery bags, like the plastic grocery bags or bread wrappers and things that are soft plastics that can be recycled. They're collecting those, and in their hopes to generate enough to qualify for a park bench for the town of Vinton that will be placed on the Greenway. So we have a number of containers set aside to collect these bags. So the citizens of Vinton or anyone for that matter, East County, Bedford County, Botetourt, want to drop them off, we'll be accepting those both at the municipal building as well as the community center. The boxes are accessible, at all hours. They're in the out front of the community center and in the vestibule here at the municipal building. So you can access those at any point and bring your clean plastic bags to be recycled in hopes that we can get a park bench. And who knows, maybe if we generate enough, we can get a couple of park benches. And we'll be collecting those through April of next year. So almost a year to collect that. So if you got them, bring them. And I wanted to mention the town is applying, speaking of grants earlier, we're applying for another grant through DHCD. This is a community impact grant that we will be seeking some housing and mixed use development planning. This is another side project of the UDA that the town participated in, the urban development area. Anita and Nathan are applying for some additional funds for that as well. But this is more of a concentrated focus on one specific target area of River Park Shopping Center to assess what the highest best use of that area is, not only the strip mall itself, but the parking and some other developable green space around it. And so looking at housing, looking at other commercial entities and uses for that site. So wanted to keep you abreast of kind of what we're planning on in the future. We got a lot of transportation projects going on. Still working on these downtown redevelopment projects, but River Park, while it's had some reinvestment recently with Big Lots moving in, they have secured some additional tenants that have yet to be announced, but there's still a lot of available space up there, and it's easily connected to our downtown and the other commercial uptown district of Restaurant Row and Lake Drive. So a lot of potential there, and the town going to try to assist in making that a reality with this additional planning grant. So we'll be applying for up to about $60,000 for some additional planning activity there. I want to acknowledge Mike's contribution. We have yet to bring it to council, but we have a partner with Benton Baptist Church and their parking lot maintenance. So there'll be an agreement coming to council for consideration in July. But in essence, that church is strategically located next to our downtown, and we desperately need parking for our patrons who are visiting these many new businesses that are in our downtown. So partnering with the church, they have a parking lot that by and large is not used a large part of the week. So the arrangement is that we will share in some of the maintenance costs of that parking lot so that we can encourage our downtown business owners and employees to park at the church as opposed to parking in front of their storefronts or, other parking that would be more useful for the patrons themselves. So thanks to Mike and thanks to all the folks at Benton Baptist for this. And there'll be more details to come, but I just wanted to mention that briefly. And I want to talk about EPA assessments real quick. Several years ago, the town received a $300,000 grant from the EPA to do brownfield assessments. This has been a hugely beneficial program for the town and all these economic development projects. So one of the first pieces you need to do if you're trying to redevelop a brownfield is determine if there's environmental hazards. And so this assessment grant has been hugely helpful to provide the funds needed to do those environmental assessments. And it is necessary for private financing, but also give peace of mind to the next potential owner or the current owner on what their potential future uses could be for that site. So I just want to mention a couple that we have worked on. We used it for Gish's Mill. We've used it for the hotel site when we acquired those 6 parcels in our efforts to recruit a hotel. We are currently doing an environmental assessment at the dry cleaner that is adjacent to the hotel site. We're doing another assessment at the former Steve's Garage, which is the pad site behind the municipal building that sits on Walnut. There's some potential community uses of that space. We're looking at the Cleveland and Pine properties, the former Cleveland Mart and an upholstery studio that's up in that general area and what the potential uses are there. So we just completed that environmental assessment. We're looking at the former garage in Kennyburger that is on Hardy. So the Montori family has partnered with the town to do environmental assessments there. That is a very underutilized property that has a lot of potential, very highly visible. It's a very fairly large tract of land, and it has great potential. And so again, we've been successful. We've developed some properties, but as you can see, we've got a number of other projects in the hopper that we're going to try to be redeveloping in the next year or 2 years. And this is the kind of the first step. So just kind of wanted to highlight some of the planning activities that the town's engaged in. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes so that we can continue to have these great agreements coming to you in the future for new projects. And I believe, Mr. Gross, that is all I had this evening. Yes, indeed. Thank you, sir.
Okay, Thank you very much for those reports. And one of the things that occurred to me is all the prospects we have for future development. So Mike, you very often mention some of the things we've done in the past, and I appreciate that. But this council has done some good stuff. We have the opportunity to do some great things. So very exciting stuff there, Pete. Thank you for that report. Speaking of reports, Pete, if you have nothing further, we'll move on to reports from our council committees, and understand that Ann's got the financial report tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay, so before you, we have the April 2021 financial report. And as you can see here in the general fund, revenues are actually at 94% of budget expectations. Even with the use of fund balances, this is a really great percentage we should be proud of. Expenditures are at 85% of budget expectations. The grant fund revenues are at 43%. Expenditures are at 41%. Utility fund revenues are at 110% of our budget expectations, and expenditures are at 100%. And then the capital fund revenues are at 59% of our adopted budget, and then expenditures are at 30%. The stormwater fund revenues are at 86%, and then the expenditures are at 56%. So all funds were at 79% of budget for revenue and 70% of budget for expenditures. And if we take a look on how this translates to our cash balances, at the end of April, general fund cash was 2.1 million. The grant fund was negative 88,000. The utility fund cash is 1.5 million. The capital fund cash was at 800,000, almost 900,000. The stormwater fund cash was at 217,000. So total cash across all the funds was just under 4.7 million. Now, $527,000 of that was restricted money. And then the police evidence fund is about $27,000. The general fund investment account was at 2.3 million, utility fund at 981,000. So total investments just under 3.3 million. So if you add total cash and total investments together, you get just under 8 million, or 7,993,000.
Great.
So a couple of highlights to talk about in April. Real property taxes were $19,000 over our year-to-date budget. Business license taxes were $145,000 over year-to-date budget. Parimutuel taxes were $132,000 over year-to-date budget. Meals taxes were $161,000 over year-to-date budget. Sales tax $28,000 over year-to-date budget. And the miscellaneous income was $875,000 under year-to-date budget. But I did just want to note the reason this is under budget is because we appropriated approximately 1.3 million for use of fund balance and one-time capital and PTO conversion. So we're actually performing very well. And at our latest forecast, we think we'll only use about half the fund balance that we appropriated. Let me scroll back here. So if there's no questions on the report, I'm happy to answer anything that you have, but I would respectfully ask you to consider a motion to approve the April 2021 financial report. Thank you.
Okay.
I just have this one comment. And if I remember correctly, right as I got on council, it was right around the stormwater fund when we started the stormwater fund, and we had concerns on how we were going to fund that. But it looks like it's coming along pretty good, huh?
Transfer, yeah. So we transfer in each month, half from the utility fund and half from the general fund, but we've been able to cover it through a budget transfer each year.
Okay.
It seemed like a big number for us to get to, but it's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's something we really need to invest in too, because that's expensive stuff for one thing. Yeah. Thank you, Ann, for that report. Council, are there any comments or questions for Ann?
Awesome job, guys. Awesome job.
Yeah.
Awesome job. I agree.
Yep. So was that a motion, Vice Mayor?
Yes, sir. I'll make a motion to adopt.
Okay.
Second,
We have a
and I'll
motion.
second.
Okay. Motion from the Vice Mayor to adopt and a second from Councilman Stovall. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Of course, I imagine that sales tax number will really take off now that Deb's Lemonade's in town, right? So.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We're
As long as
counting,
it's hot, as long as it stays hot.
we're counting on it, man. With that, we'll move on to the boards and commissions, appointments for the boards and commissions. And I'll ask Susan to summarize our nominees, please.
Okay, so council needs to consider the following appointments. Teresa Davis as a full member to the Board of Zoning Appeals to complete the unexpired term of Mick Mickelson beginning June 15, 2021 and ending January 16, 2025. Ann Cantrell to the Greater Roanoke Transit Company for a new one-year term beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2022. Mayor Gross to the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission Executive Committee for a new 3-year term beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2024. Janet Scheid to the Roanoke Valley Greenway Commission for a new 3-year term beginning July 1, 2021 and ending June 30, 2024. Cody Sexton to the Roanoke Valley Transportation Planning Organization as a non-voting member to complete the unexpired term of Anita McMillan beginning June 15, 2021 and ending June 30, 2023. And Cody Sexton to the Western Virginia Regional Industrial Facility Authority to complete the unexpired term of Barry W. Thompson beginning June 15, 2021 and ending February 3rd, 2022.
All right, thank you, Susan. Appreciate that. Council, are there any other nominations? If not, we'll entertain a motion to appoint the nominees as we've heard outlined by Susan.
I'll make a motion to appoint as outlined.
Okay. We have a
I'll
motion.
second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Lyles, second by Vice Mayor McCarty. Do we do a roll call on this, Susan, or not?
Let's do.
Let's do it.
All right, Councilmember Lyles. Councilmember Lyles.
Yes.
Councilmember Stovall.
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCarty.
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes. Thank you, folks, for that. We had quite a few appointments. Most of them are staff adjustments. But I would just like to encourage anyone that's interested in serving on a board or a commission to apply to the town. And if you have in the past and have not got appointed, please don't get discouraged. This time around, we had a lot of very experienced, qualified people, but we are always interested in getting new people involved on our boards and our commissions. We like to get people plugged into town. So as I say, please don't get discouraged if you didn't get nominated this time. Okay, hey, I think it's my turn. I feel like I've talked a lot tonight unintentionally. I guess you folks noticed Lori, Councilmember Lori Mullins is not with us this evening. She had a very special activity with her family tonight, so she couldn't attend. But Lori always stays plugged in, and we always get information out to our council members. So we certainly hope she enjoys that important family activity. Just a couple of things I wanted to mention. As always, thank you, staff. You just continue to amaze me and just blow me away. You guys are really getting a lot done, and I know that comes from hard work and dedication. So thank you so much for that. I briefly want to congratulate the William Byrd High School graduates. This has been another year that's been quite unusual for our graduates, and They've really worked hard, and they certainly deserve some special recognition. I think they should get a special certificate, just being folks that are adaptable and flexible. So congratulations, graduates. We certainly wish you luck. I also want to thank the volunteers for the Ironman Festival. And as you folks know, it came through Vinton. Quite a successful event. I think all the reports have been good, and everyone seemed to enjoy it. I certainly hope that they will return. Pete may have information on that. I'm not sure. But just want to thank all the folks that volunteered for that, because it's very important to have all those volunteers. Also want to congratulate the Chamber of Commerce on their first Mingle at the Market. It was held recently, I guess last Saturday night. I didn't get a chance to attend this time. I like to attend those things. They're a lot of fun and a great community activity. I understand that one was successful, so hopefully we're off to a good start and a good summer for those. One last item, I especially want to congratulate and thank Colonel John Miller for organizing a special activity this past Sunday at the Vinton War Memorial. And that was in honor of the Flag Day, as well as the birthday for the U.S. Army. It was really a nice event. Colonel Miller is a part of the Association of the United States Army. He's quite active in that, and he does a lot of things around town. You folks may recall he was very instrumental in distributing the Vietnam veterans. I guess it would be some kind of medallion. And so I just want to thank him. He always thinks of Vinton when he's doing activities like that. He understands this to be a very patriotic community, and I think that's symbolized by the Veterans Monument. It was paid for primarily through the efforts of Citizens Committee. So thank you, Colonel Miller, and all your folks for coming to town Sunday for that special ceremony. With that, I will turn it over to council, and we will start with the Vice Mayor tonight. Do you have anything further for us, Sabrina?
I just want to again thank staff. This was this is an excellent meeting, and the thing that we got accomplished tonight and moving forward on. So thanks to everyone. It's rare you get a good team that works together, but we're blessed to have them. So
yes,
thank you, and have a good evening.
Yes, well said. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Lyles, you have anything further this evening?
No, Mayor, I think you said it all. And I will mention one thing, though, that I've got on I did get my water line replacement insurance brochure in the mail the other day. And then I did some chatter on social media about that. You know, we talked earlier about the infrastructure of the water, our water lines and things that we're working on to fix. However, read that if anyone's tuning in, read that make sure your insurance policy is what it is. A lot of people think that their insurance policy will replace a line from your house to the street, and they won't. They'll do it inside, but they won't outside. So if you've already replaced it, hey, tree could grow through it, but if you haven't, it could be time to do that, and it's quite expensive. So I just got mine in, and I read it from front to cover. And although I have replaced mine, and I don't know if anybody's noticed, but I removed 44 bull pine trees out of my yard. So not really worried about my water line right now, but you never know. So I could have maybe not took down those trees and used some of the money to buy an insurance policy, but
yeah. That's good information, though. I'm glad you mentioned that, Keith. We should all take a look at that. That's very valuable information. Thank you, Keith.
Some of the chatter, I heard that it was required by the town or something like that. That's not true. It's strictly voluntary, and however, it's just a good.
Yes.
Yep. Yep, good program. I would highly recommend it, but like you said, it's voluntary.
Yeah, and the last thing is I'm looking forward to seeing the majority of you on July the 6th. So
Now you're looking forward to seeing every one of us. I'm gonna tell you one thing. You're gonna bring it in, aren't you, brother? Bring it in.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Keith, for all of that. Councilman Stovall, it's your turn, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I'm good. God bless everybody. I'm good. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you, sir, for that. Folks, anything further to come before council tonight? Well, thank you for a great meeting. As you mentioned earlier, Sabrina, it was a good meeting. We got a lot done. That's because there's already been a lot of work done. So we appreciate all the hard work. If there's nothing further, we will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the
Oh, sorry, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by turning off your computers. Good night, folks. God bless.
Bye.